Welcome to Stop, Look, and Listen, Signs and Synchronicities. Quick reminder, I chose a year of magical reinvention as my theme for 2025. It's hard to imagine we have only 3 more months to transform ourselves. In January, we began planning our journey by defining our personal reinvention destination. From February through May, we focused on identifying what I call the "you are here" component of personal reinvention, our needs and wants, the true north of the soul, and our doubts and beliefs. Then we shone the bright light of summer on the next phase of the road trip, but you could be here. In June, we looked at how false beliefs can hold us back from seeing all of the possible roads we can take. In July, we examined how fear can derail us along the way. In August, we looked at why goal planning is key to being able to get started, keep going, and finally reach our destination. Of course, anyone who has ever taken a road trip knows that even the best laid plans can go awry. We will encounter many roadblocks, intriguing highways, and meandering byways that can either entice us or force us to correct our course. Because in the words of Emma Chase, the greatest part of a road trip isn't arriving at your destination, it's all the wild stuff that happens along the way. So in September, we looked at how acknowledging wake-up calls, aha moments, and crossroads are essential steps if you want or need to change some aspect of your reinvention journey. And now it's time to discover how, like your car's GPS, the universe sometimes conspires to recalculate your route by giving you signs and synchronicities that cannot and should not be ignored if you want to stay on track. Now, the idea that the universe shows us signs and synchronicities is a concept often explored in various philosophical, spiritual, and psychological frameworks. Some people believe that certain events or patterns in life are not just random, but are meaningful, guiding individuals toward personal growth, answers, or life changes. Ultimately, whether or not the universe shows us signs and synchronicities is subjective. Some find profound meaning and guidance in these experiences, while others see them just as coincidence or a way for the mind to find patterns. It can depend on your worldview, your beliefs, and your personal experiences. Now, Louise Hay called the acceptance of what we see demonstrations. Based on my own beliefs and experiences, I believe that the universe, spirit, God, your Aunt Betty, or whatever name you wish to give it, speaks to us all the time. Also, it's been my experience that spirit is not subtle. When a message is sent, it's meant to be heard loud and clear. And sometimes these messages will be sent repeatedly until we do get them. Just because we don't get the message doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just that most of us don't always recognize the messages because we haven't learned what I call the language of our particular communicators. But there's a fix for that. Learning to recognize signs and tune into synchronistic events takes practice, mindfulness, and a willingness to see these demonstrations. And that's what we'll be discussing today. So at the end of our time together, here's what I'm hoping will be your takeaways. You'll be a little more aware of what captures your attention and why. And you'll experience for yourself how to use drive-by intuition to see the signs and synchronicities that are important, meaningful, and I firmly believe intended just for you. So first, just a little about me. My name is McDowell Graham. I am the owner of Cracks in Consciousness. My calling and service to others is to help people see themselves and their place in the world with new eyes in order for them to get from where they are to where they want to be. I'm an author and therapeutic storyteller. Most importantly, I've developed a powerful and proven 3-step process called Examine, Envision, Emerge that will help you get started on the journey of personal exploration. You'll learn how to examine your current thought patterns and belief systems, envision what you want to have, be, do, or change in your life, and finally, chart a new course in order to emerge into the light. You can find out more about this process and how it literally rescued me when I locked myself in the barn on New Year's Day on my website. Okay, so let's begin. What's on the agenda for this webinar? Notice the quote on this slide. It's at the heart of what we'll be talking about today. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. So we begin by defining each term: sign, synchronicity, drive by intuition, what each one means. Then we'll do a series of hands-on exercises to help you become more familiar with the different ways in which each of these terms might impact your daily life. We'll finish up with how you can put some of what we've talked about today into practice. And then, of course, stick around to the end because I always have freebies and goodies. So let's begin by taking a closer look at each of the concepts we'll be discussing means. Sign. A sign, at its most basic, is an indicator that guides people. These can be in the form of objects, images, sounds, thoughts, feelings, repeated numbers, encounters with certain people, specific dreams, or events that seem unusually aligned with a person's thoughts or desires. Synchronicity. This is defined as the meaningful coincidence of two or more events that appear to be unrelated, but are experienced together. And then drive-by intuition. Well, first we know what intuition means. It's the immediate knowing of something without the conscious use of reasoning. We see a picture, hear an inner voice, get a gut feeling from a place that seems somehow outside of ourselves. Now, the term drive-by intuition was coined by Sunday Merrick in her book, Divine Rhyme and Reason, which she described like this. Drive-by intuition occurs when we are driving on the street and something draws our immediate attention that resonates with us. Okay, so let's move on to how your understanding of these terms might impact your life, the decisions you make, and the actions you take as a result. Let's begin by taking a closer look at signs. So notice the quote on this slide. It's long, but it exactly describes the point to signs. It's from Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens. "You see this toothpick," said Scrooge, wishing, though it were only for a second, to divert the vision's stony gaze from himself. "I do," replied the ghost. "You're not looking at it," said Scrooge. "But I see it," said the ghost, notwithstanding. Now, most of us have spent the majority of our lives trying to divert our own stony gaze from anything that can't be rationally explained. And for many of us, we've been taught to doubt the signs we see, to disbelieve in our own senses. Now, signs, of course, as we mentioned, which can include objects, images, sounds, thoughts, or feelings, often go unnoticed simply because we've not learned to watch for them and to make them meaningful in relation to how we navigate our daily lives. And you don't need oracle cards or a crystal ball or a magic wand to learn to see the signs along the way. You just need to notice what's right in front of you, and here's what might be a challenge for some of you. Take a leap of faith that what you're seeing is being presented to you and you alone for a reason. And then if you choose, take action based on what the sign means for you. Now, remember the movie Close Encounters of a Third Kind. Richard Dreyfuss points to the mountain he's carving into his mashed potatoes, and he says with some anguish, "This means something. It's important." Now, at that moment, he doesn't know why it's important, only that it is. The experience of it matters at that moment, and as a result, he's driven to action. How he perceives the world and how he navigates through it in that moment has changed. Dead people and animals, for that matter, angels, spirit guides, guardian angels, and a countless host of other entities often use signs to let us know they're around. This includes not just physical signs, but many other types of signs. And this slide shows just a few of the examples, countless examples of meaningful signs. So number one, like white feathers. A lot of people believe that seeing white feathers is a sign. New pennies. My friend's late husband loved leaving new pennies in the front seat of her car. And there's no way that those pennies could have just appeared out of nowhere. She doesn't even use pennies. How about birds or animals as spirit guides? Ringing ears. You'll hear a lot of ringing in your ears. What about chicken skin? That creepy crawly kind of, you got goosebumps. Scents, where they theoretically shouldn't be. Numbers. This is a big one for a lot of people. 1111, 111, 222, 444, 555. How about images that remind you of specific people? Or billboards, license plates, or posters. A lot of people share that those signs are meaningful to them. Now, here's a great example that came out of an article in the Denver Post. It was titled, "Tool Library Aims to Equip Denver with Gear and a Space to Use It." This is what it said. Sarah Siner is the founder of Denver's Tool Library. She found a pair of discarded bolt cutters in the middle of the street, moments after asking for a sign from the universe on whether she was the one to start the tool library. Now that's what I call a sign. Okay, so I have a couple for my own life. The first one is, I wanted a Harley Davidson badly. I'm a firm believer in manifestation and the law of attraction. So over my work desk, I pinned up a really dandy picture of a Harley that I wanted, and I focused on it daily. One day, I was hiking through the Del Monte Forest in Monterey, California. Along the trail, I noticed something shiny in the dirt. Curious, I picked it up and dusted it off. And I swear this is true. It was a license plate cover that said, "My other ride is a Harley." You cannot make this stuff up. And by the way, yes, I got the Harley right after that. I'm going to give you another example that happened to me a few years ago to get you thinking about how this might work for you. So, day number one, I see a hawk perched at the top of one of my trees, not 50 feet away. Now, it's not unusual for me to see hawks flying in the distance, but landing on one of my trees, that's unusual. Of course, I'm mesmerized, and I feel blessed that the hawk is there and close enough for me to really look at it. Now, I do notice that he seems to sit there for a long time, but again, I'm simply thrilled. So, day number two, I glance back at the tree, and he's there again in the exact same spot. And again, he's there for a long time. Now, I know that sometimes nature provides a sign that I probably should pay attention to. So I ask myself, maybe this means something. So this time, I pull out my Animal Speaks book to find out what hawk might mean from maybe it's a sign standpoint. Ah, there it is. Hawk reminds us to keep an eye on the big picture. He's soaring above, looking. Now, I was about to be laid off, and I'm trying to figure out what's next. So I think, okay, I got it. I need to consider all of my options when looking for another job, because I'll need to get another job, and I don't have to just look in the company I'm currently working for. Okay. Day three, I look up, and behold, he's back. I think, okay, maybe I'm really not considering all of my other options. So now I'll expand my job search criteria. And I'm thinking, okay, got it, thanks. Now, as I mentioned, spirit is not subtle. When a sign appears and the message is sent, it's meant to be heard loud and clear, and it's going to keep being sent repeatedly until we get them in the way that spirit wants us to get them, not in the way we want to hear them. That is very important. So day four, I can't believe what I'm seeing, because there he is again. So clearly I'm not getting the intended message. So this time I go back to the book to see if I missed something. And there it is. Hawk reminds us to see the big picture in order to stay grounded to find what we need. The hawk scans the world around it until it finds its prey where? On the ground. Why is this significant? Because right before the hawk showed up, one of my spiritual advisors told me that I needed to start doing daily grounding meditations because I was allowing the big picture to overwhelm me. Plus, I wasn't opening myself to all possible options, which included not going back to work and looking for another job. Okay, so I look up at the hawk one more time and I say, okay, now I've got it. Day 5 rolls around and the hawk is gone. Message received. Now, you may or may not believe that the hawk was a sign meant just for me. But to that, I can only say that for me, I took a leap of faith and believed that the hawk was a sign. And the message I received led me to decide that what I needed to do at that moment was to not find another job. And I didn't. My perception of the sign, as well as the experience, drove me to a new action, one I hadn't considered before. Which brings us to your first exercise. You're going to be looking at your own signs. Okay? So take out your worksheet, complete the statements under my signs. There's 2 statements. First is, what does a sign mean to you? Write down words, phrases, and feelings about the concept of signs. Do you believe in them? How do you feel about them? Then the next one, thinking back over your life. List all of the signs you perceived that you believed were intentional and meant for you. Describe how you knew it was a sign and what actions you took, if any. Think about the examples I shared with you. Perceiving the sign often leads to taking some kind of action. Okay, take about 10 minutes for this. Welcome back. Did you find any surprises? Was this harder or easier than you expected? Okay, let's go on. Let's talk about synchronicities. Notice the quote on this slide. This is from Jung. Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Probably the most well-known chronicler of synchronicity is Carl Jung. He defines synchronicity as the meaningful coincidence of 2 or more events that appear to be unrelated but are experienced together. The events don't have a cause and effect relationship, but their occurrence together is seen as having a greater significance or a more profound meaning. And it's a belief that meaningful coincidences are more than just chance. So notice the emphasis on the word meaningful. The goal of synchronicity is to recognize these meaningful coincidences and use them as a way to learn more about ourselves and our place in the world. But too often they go unnoticed because we've not learned to watch for such coincidences and to make them meaningful in relation to how we navigate our daily lives. Now, I don't know if I can say unequivocally that there are no coincidences. Coincidence and synchronicity are both defined as striking occurrences of 2 or more events at one time. However, there's a subtle difference. Coincidence is perceived as chance or luck, while synchronicity implies the presence of a deeper intelligence at work. We find ourselves saying, what are the chances that something just happened? So now learning to recognize synchronistic events is just like learning to recognize signs. You want to tune into them, and it takes practice, mindfulness, and that willingness to see. They can run the gamut from whimsical to insightful to life-changing. And it is hard to imagine that there's anyone on the planet who has not experienced at least one of the most common synchronistic events. This slide shows just a few of the most common. You think about a friend and they suddenly call you. You think about a song and it's playing when you turn on the radio. You have a feeling that something's going to happen, and it does. You come across useful information in unexpected places that could indicate that something meaningful is happening in your life. It is an example of synchronicity, as you may need the information at that particular moment, and so it appears as if by chance. How about seeing a vivid image or daydreaming about something that comes true shortly afterwards? You might daydream about a particular place or an object. Shortly after that, you find yourself in that exact location, or you are given that particular object. It could also be an example of synchronicity, as you might be meant to experience something special there. How about being in a conversation with someone and then suddenly finishing their sentence for them? This situation could be a vivid sign of synchronicity, as it may indicate that you're on the same wavelength as that person. And then, of course, being in the right place at the right time can be a powerful example of synchronicity. It could be a job opportunity, a chance encounter, or even a life-saving event. These experiences often serve as a reminder that we are always exactly where we need to be and that the universe is constantly working in our favor. So I have a couple of examples. These were stories that came from the newspaper Prairie Times, and they were published in February 2020. First one, Charles Oz Collins recounts a story about a longtime friend who had one particularly gaudy rooster still living on his farm. After this man's death, Charles would drive by the farm and sometimes spot Junior's rooster, called him Junior's rooster. Now, one day, not long after his father-in-law died, Charles, he says, for a reason I cannot explain, turned off the paved road onto the country road that passed his friend's farm and which, coincidentally, was less than a mile from his father-in-law's place. To his delight, Junior's rooster crossed the road in front of him, and then he saw it. Another equally gaudy male bird running parallel to the first. He had not seen two roosters together on that road in years. And he said, my mind wants to call it a coincidence of timing. My heart will not agree. So here's the second story. This was Marion Tickner, shared a story about what she referred to as a mysterious white van. Driving home one day, she got trapped in an unexpected whiteout. She couldn't see a thing, but she was determined to attempt to get home, even if she had to drive only 20 miles an hour the entire way to get there safely. As she turned one particularly treacherous corner, she slid off the road. Behind her was a truck and a white van. Fortunately, she managed to right herself and she continued on. At the next turn, the truck passed her, but the white van stayed behind her at a safe distance and speed. And here's how she described it. The white van followed all the twists and turns I had to make. When I was close to home, the driver turned off. At a glance, I noticed lettering on the side was a business I had never heard of, and I've lived here most of my life. What businessman would be content to follow a little old lady at 20 miles an hour? Could that white van have been an angel God sent to me to give me courage and keep me safe? Okay, so now you're ready for your next exercise, where you get to identify your own experiences with synchronicities. Take out your worksheet, fill in these 3 statements under my synchronicities. First, what does synchronicity mean to you? Write down words, phrases, feelings about the concept of synchronicities. Read this sentence. There are no coincidences. How does that resonate with you? Then, thinking back over your life, list all of your meaningful coincidences. Describe how you knew it was a synchronistic event and what actions you took, if any. Take about 10 minutes for that. Welcome back. Again, was this harder or easier? than you expected. Well, let's keep moving forward because next up is drive-by intuition. So, as we've said before, most of us know what intuition means. It's the immediate knowing of something without the conscious use of reason. We see the picture, we hear an inner voice, we get the gut feeling from a place that seems somehow outside of ourselves. However, although our hunch or gut reaction is often correct, many people dismiss it. They don't recognize it or they deny it because it's usually based on information that may not be readily apparent to our consciousness. In addition, other factors such as religious beliefs, upbringing, or culture can also affect our willingness to believe in our inner knowing. Now, in terms of the personal reinvention road trip we've been on since the beginning of the year, and paying attention to what we're passing by or through en route to our final destination, the idea of drive-by intuition becomes especially relevant. Remember that the definition of drive-by intuition is, it occurs when we are driving on the street and something draws our immediate attention. We don't necessarily know why at first, but as we are looking around, we suddenly see it. It resonates with us. What do I mean by resonate? Something about that something that drew our attention seems meaningful in a way that can't be explained by our senses or maybe even by our feelings alone. So I have a couple of more examples of how drive-by intuition can work in our lives. The first one is a friend told me about a time she was driving on a road that she had driven countless times before. Suddenly, she looks over and sees about a dozen crows all lined up on the top of a fence. They seem to be looking right at her. She thinks, I've never seen crows on that spot before, and why are they looking at me? Even though she didn't know at that time what it meant, it resonated enough with her that she called me when she got home. So we looked up the meaning of crows as a symbol in the Animal Speaks book. One thing jumped out at her immediately. Crows have been known to predict tornadoes, rain, or other changes in the weather. Seeing crows can help us see how the winds are going to blow into our lives in order to adjust our own life flights. Now, as it turns out, she had been thinking about making several changes in her life at that very moment, including retiring and moving out of state. So now this seemed especially relevant, and she was being called to action. Now, one of my most vivid experiences with this occurred when I was driving home from work. I live in a rural area with few paved roads and lots of wildlife crossing the roads at all hours. Now, I say this to point out that I'm pretty vigilant anyways when I'm navigating these roads. But this time, before I reached the rise where I could even see the next part of the road, I clearly see in my mind two German short-haired pointers running across the road. Yes, I even saw the breed of the dog. It was that clear. I instinctively slowed down and became even more vigilant. As I came over the rise, sure enough, there were two German short-haired pointers running across the road just as I had imagined them. If I hadn't slowed down, I would have been at the very place where they were crossing. I knew in my gut that I was warned by a higher source so that I was able to avoid hitting them. And like I said, you can't make this stuff up. So now it's your turn to identify any experiences you might have had with drive-by intuition. Take out your worksheet. You've got two statements you want to finish. Again, first, write down, what does drive-by intuition mean to you? You may not even believe it's a concept. How do you feel about it? If you've heard how I described it, how do you feel about it? What do you think it is? Then, thinking back over your life, can you describe any significant drive-by intuition experiences you've had and what actions you took, if any? Now, if this idea is just too new for you, You can also include any just basic intuitive experiences you've had. Don't have to be in the car to experience it. Okay, take about 10 minutes again. Welcome back. Always ask yourself, was it harder or easier to complete this than you expected? So what's next? Signs and synchronicities can reveal deeper truths about ourselves or the situation at hand. They are a way for the universe or our higher senses to communicate with us and guide us on our life's journey. When signs and synchronicities occur, it's important to pay attention to the messages or guidance they may be offering. Following the guidance offered by these occurrences can open up a deeper understanding of the self and the world around us. So as you go forward, I would ask you to consider these final recommendations. Number one, let go of doubt and disbelief. If you take away anything from this webinar, that's the one thing I'd like you to take. Remember what Jung said, for those who have eyes to see. Allow yourself to see the impossible and the mysterious. If you believe what you're seeing, sensing, feeling, hearing, or just plain getting in any way is meaningful to you, it is. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Number two, spend the day paying attention to anything you sense without judgment. Anything at all. You sense, you see, you hear, you feel. Chills, being alone in the room that you know no one else is in. Gut feelings. Remember, it can be anything that you perceive is important and meaningful to you. Next, reflect on the meaning of anything you sensed. Take some time to contemplate the possible meaning or message behind the sign, the synchronistic event, or the drive-by intuition experience. Consider how it may relate to your current life circumstances, beliefs, or desires. Number four, listen to your intuition. That quiet inner voice is often drowned out by the noise of everyday life, but it's there, guiding you toward what you truly want. In her book, Spirited, Connect to the Guides All Around You, Rebecca Rosen described it like this: we're all born with intuitive knowing. It's our most powerful tool, but most of us barely know it's even there. Number five, practice drive-by intuition for a day. What appeared to you? What caught your eye? Do you think it had any special meaning for you? And then, of course, the last one is take action. If the sign, the synchronistic event, or the drive-by intuition experience seems to be offering guidance or direction, take action in alignment with the message or insight you've received. This may involve making a decision, changing a habit, or reaching out to someone important in your life. Because as this quote says on the slide, sometimes you find yourself in the middle of nowhere. And sometimes in the middle of nowhere, you find yourself. So we've come to the end of our time together. I want to thank you all for joining me. And to show my appreciation, I'm offering all kinds of freebies and goodies. First one is, you might want to think about subscribing to my newsletter if you haven't already. As I mentioned at the start of this webinar, I've chosen a year of magical reinvention as my theme for all of 2025. Each month, I'm providing specific steps along with inspiration, guidance, strategies, and personal transformation tips and tricks so you can create your own reinvention roadmap. Use the link in this slide to use the sign-up form on my website to be added to my mailing list. Next, if you enjoyed this webinar and would like to sign up for more, check out my 2025 webinars page on my website. I'm hosting webinars throughout the year focused on the theme of magical reinvention, and through the end of this year, all my webinars are free, October, November, and December. You can also watch my Examine, Envision, Emerge videos on my YouTube channel. I record all of the webinars, the paid webinars I'm hosting this year, and I post the full-length videos in the private section of my YouTube channel. Access to the videos is available for only $15 per webinar. You can send an email to cracksinConsciousness@gmail.com so I can let you know how to purchase it, view the replay, and you're going to get the worksheet you'll be filling out during the webinar. And for those of you who want just the basics, for each webinar, I'm also creating how to get started videos, and you can watch these at any time for free in the public area of my YouTube channel. And last, if you'd like to go deeper into this subject, would like some additional one-on-one coaching, let me know, and we can determine the best way ahead for you. Use the contact me form on my website to let me know what more I can do for you. So I hope you found this video worthwhile, the stories inspiring, and you've uncovered some tools you can use to move forward. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you'd like to see more. And you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Thanks for watching.